Well, welcome back to another video with me here. Of course, it's Darren Langille. Thanks for tuning in. Today's topic, this is one pretty near and dear in my heart. Today's topic is going to be exploring on some of the basics that you should know about how to pick a business partner or how not to. Over the last 15 years growing my business, I've made some good choices. I've made some bad choices. I've had to live through the good and the bad. And I've got a few insights that I've helped share along the way with many people that have come across my world that are looking to take on partnerships as well. So in this video, I'm going to deep dive into that for you. So hopefully this really helps you out.
Here we go now.
Just like a marriage, business partnerships do take a lot of work. It takes a lot to keep them moving, to keep them fresh, and to keep them full of energy. This is what I'm going to dive into with some of the lessons learned that I've incorporated and had to figure out along the way. So let me give you a little context so you can understand the journey that I've been on, so you can kind of put that in your mind as you're listening to this and trying to apply it to the things that you've done or the positions that you're about to explore. So here I was back in 2005. I was in real estate already by myself. Lucky enough out of university, and through university purchased a couple of properties, got into the real estate game. I had 5 different properties by the time I hit my 24th birthday. But here we were. I wanted to take this on to the next level. And I formed a partnership with my current original founding partner, Brett, back in 2005, where we were going to jump into the rental property game at a level that was beyond what I was already doing. So here we were, that is 15 years ago now. And currently, where we sit here in Redline and under its group of companies, him and I are still in partnership after all of these years. So that's providing you some context to say that we've made it work. Hasn't always been rosy, and at times it's not at all, but we are here and we've learned some lessons along the way. Also, beyond that, we have taken on a few extra partnerships along the way. We've taken on partnerships across the country. We've taken on partnerships locally in our own markets. We've also taken on partnerships with properties where different responsibilities required, and we've also taken on kind of profit share type setups where we shared equal responsibility, required trust of each other, and had to move the business ahead to some degree. Some of these are still there. Some of them since enacting them, they are flourishing today and they continue to do really well. Some of them have failed miserably and their compound effects still affect me today. So we've seen it all, we're experiencing it all. And because we're still partnerships across, I have to navigate them every single day. All right, let's go into some of the lessons. I'm going to say this will be one of 2 things I talk about today about how to not pick a partnership. Then after that, I'll go into 3 things that we've learned about how they work best. The number one reason to go into partnership with somebody is for the reason of vanity. First and foremost, it might seem like that's an obvious reason, and it's like, Darren, thanks for nothing. But it is, from my experience, and when I look around, and I've helped coach many people over the last decade, it's one of the reasons that most people consider a partnership in the first place. But they might be a little bit blinded to that fact. I don't know if it's because of the industry that I'm in with real estate. It's hard to find an industry out there that isn't, more full of egos, more full of having to be on display and build your personal brand and to be the thing that people look to. We are independent contractors. We're forced into that kind of public spotlight because oftentimes with that comes future business. In my case, I fell into this trap too. In my case, it was back in kind of 2015 where I had gone through a few years of incredible growth. If you listen to my coaching video, you'll notice back in 2013, I started this massive uptrend in my business, recovered it with some support, and it trickled, it set off a big rush of growth. And then in 2015, where I reflect back on, I made a vanity-based decision that because, again, maybe it's the industry, but I wanted bigger, I wanted better, I wanted more. Actually, I probably didn't want better. I just wanted bigger, I wanted more. And that's where the vanity side comes into play. The blinders of vanity, without even knowing I was doing this, it was so against my core. It was so against the fundamentals about how I had grown my business to that day that it completely pushed aside a lot of my core values, to the point that by the time I realized what I had done, it was too late, and there was a series of events that were about to unfold that I was either too proud or just unwilling to do at that point. Again, probably due to the vanity metrics that came with it. And it's needless to say that that partnership, as I'm kind of set it up for, didn't work out. It did for a while, to a degree, but it never fully felt right. And I think some of the people that are around me and are still can attest to that. And being a bit vulnerable, it's one of those things that still affects me today. The second reason not to form a partnership that I'll talk about today is about the concept of perception. It might feel similar to vanity. The idea of perception to me means that you're creating an image that really isn't there. It's just image based, and that's why it does layer over to vanity, but it's more about creating a perception rather than just like vanity was, which was bigger, and there was substance to that. There was more, so there was no perceived value that there was more. There truly was more involved. Now this is about kind of a falsification perception. I see this often in real estate too, and that's why I bring it up, because I think a lot of my audience, people that might come across this, are realtors. And I see this where there's two strong producers or two strong people that have had good careers, and they look to come together to put together to come and build this brand. The idea that two is better than one is pretty real. Like, I mean, I'm not going to dispute that. Two is better than one if the intention is to create a business with both skill sets that is improved, not just to create a layer or a mask where the perception of value is there to the industry. The value to the client or the future clients stays very unimproved, right? The mask, the layer is so thin that it's based around perception, that the undertone and what happens after somebody would, say, join the organization, be a part of it, become a client, isn't larger than it would have been if they were working with, say, party one or party two. The other layer, why they don't work often when they're positioned that way, is because there's this third thing that's been created. One strong agent, second strong agent, come together creating a layer. Because that's the intention, and it's based on perception. What happens is both groups aren't willing to do this and connect enough things together, whereby intertwining and becoming team and becoming a true merger does value get created. So that's what happens, is when you keep too much separate with this masked layer, right, this perception of a value, you've created a recipe for future disaster. And that's why so often when they're based around this, they come together and they fall apart, and they come together and they fall apart. And I see this time and time again in our industry, and I wish people thought this through a little bit better. Okay, so those are two big reasons that I want you to be thinking about if the idea of a partnership is coming your way or some collaboration, you need to think about that. And if that ends up being the filter, maybe it's worth reconsidering, or you might need to go a little deeper together. So now I'm going to switch gears over to some of the reasons and the tips and the lessons around. If you are going to go in and you're not one of those two reasons and you're going to go ahead with this partnership, some of the lessons learned that I've come across that can hopefully help your business. Okay, the first one here is alignment, right? Alignment. Sounds like a simple word, sounds like something that may again be obvious, but there's some depth of conversation that need to happen to ensure that is maintained. See, when you're in a partnership, you're going to be spending countless hours, countless energy, during the 9 to 5 workday, but before the workday, after the workday, on evenings and weekends, and you're going to need that alignment so that as that happens, and as you need to put in that energy to create your business, to make it what you want, alignment doesn't mean that you have to have the exact same skill sets. It's actually probably better if you don't. It's probably better that you find complementary, a bit of a yin and a yang in the setup, so that as you go down this path, you're not butting heads, but you are finding your way to make your way down the field per se. So let me give you an example. What if one of your partners, or the partner you're looking to bring on, is focused on volume, and their way of business is more and more often and based on volume and transaction count, but your focus on growth is more about wringing out more services out of less clients and a deeper feeling around service and quality rather than transaction. That would be a misalignment. And a lot of people may not have that conversation before you get in too far. What about if one partner, when it comes to staffing, kind of just believes, well, staffing's easy. I can just hire if that person doesn't work out, and I can just continue to fire and change, and my staff is more of a commodity-based thing because they should be grateful that I'm employing them. What if one of your partner believes that, but you're more of the say that, hey, a happy workplace creates a productive workplace. And with a productive workplace, the people that my employees work with will have a better experience, right? So what if that's the two ends of the coin that you're dealing with? And if alignment isn't had, you're going to need to consider that. What about your own personal willingness, right? When I speak alignment, what about this? What about if one partner is a kind of a boots on the ground person, getting their hands dirty, and when we talk about do this, it's done, implementation. But what if the other partner is the opposite to that? And it's more high level, and it's big picture, and it's in a different place. And do you think if you don't have that alignment to understand the differences between both parties, that there might be friction along the way, and that will rear its head and it'll cause issues, entitlement, right? There's major things that you want to consider when it comes to partnership, where alignment, if solved early, will help you get through that. Okay, one of the second things that I want to talk about around the lessons and how to will be on this concept of clear definitions among you. It might sound simple again, but one of the things you need to slow down when you considering this is who is doing what, right? Who is doing what? What are your main points of responsibility for which you can look to each other and know you're going to handle this, I can let you run, and that there'll be some trust there and set up the who and the expectations around that. Oftentimes when partnerships come together, the excitement will kind of overwhelm everybody, and some of these kind of simple decisions that you might instill upon your employees don't be had amongst the partners. And this is real. This is something you need to consider, because when two people join in a partnership setup, the default works out to be oftentimes a 50-50 relationship, or a very equal relationship, right? Two people investing into a company, two people starting it from the garage, from their basement, two people coming together at the grassroots level. you end up in this position where there's two people on top. Think about most organizations there is a top dog. There is a leader that is, if everything else, aside from the big Fortune 500 companies and the publicly traded, we're talking small and medium business, there's generally somebody that's the final anvil that can make the decision going. But when you come together on partnerships, your votes are equal, it's all a happy family, we're doing this together, two is better than one. If you don't define that somebody is going to lead, at least when it's about decision X, Y, or Z, you're going to end up in this position where it's a stalemate, and that can lead to a lot of friction, which I've seen, especially over my 15 years where I've seen partnerships come and go constantly, while mine hasn't. So it's back to the concept of setting those clear definitions. As hard as it is, because we're all wearing a whole bunch of different hats in our industries, especially with small business and medium business, I'd say, $250,000 to even $20 million dollar revenue businesses will have similar hierarchy where there's not a whole bunch of layers to the organization, and you need to get clear on the how and the who and where the trust is and where that anvil is, or else you're going to have some troubles. Okay, and the third one, again, might seem simple, but there's some lessons to be learned here, is communication. The power of it and the expectations you put on your partners is very important, because that's a critical foundational place of expectation and how you either are in flow together or out. So here's the thing. Oftentimes entrepreneurs, people like you listening, realtors, you're pretty type A, right? You're drivers, right? Just like me and just like I was. You get up into this place where, I'm pretty direct, right? If I have something on my mind, I'm going to say it. There's not a lot that's going to hold me back. But okay, that might be you. But what about the partner, right? Are they like that? Maybe they're not as type A as you are. And maybe there's a reason the yin and the yang is coming together. And you need to be mindful of how they're feeling around that idea of, hey, if I have something to say, if it's boiling up inside me, maybe they're reverting to keeping it in and it's boiling up. But you got to lay the expectations around the safe place to get out there and to have it out. And that's one thing that along my journey with my founding business partner, that as tough as it is and continues to be, we don't hide from those conversations. We allow them, for the most part, to come out early so they don't end up bigger than they should be. And I know the times throughout our relationships in my business where among all the partners that I've had, when we didn't do that and we let things fester, things didn't go so well. I do know some of the failures we had with some of the partners that we no longer have is because that didn't happen. And by the time it was a moment to share and to bring things forward, one party had already gone down a path that was too far and could never come back from. I mean, so sometimes that needs to happen. Sometimes actually that's the reason, and it's God and the world's funny way of bringing everything together. But sometimes when the partnership was aligned, should be aligned, there's value to the client, and things are better together, you're going to want to be sure that you're on that side of the coin where you've defined that, you expect that of your partners, whether they're minority partners, majority partners or not. Just ensure you have that safe place so that trust can be built and you don't end up getting caught off guard or blindsided by things that could come your way. In the words of Jim Collins, if you've ever read the book, and if you haven't, you should, Good to Great, he speaks about confronting the brutal facts. And that sums it up pretty good. Okay, well, there you have it. I've shared 2 reasons not to form that might seem obvious, but when you think about them, they might be the trap you're about to get caught into. I've also shared 3 strategies and lessons learned that I've had throughout my dealings, whether it's worked out or not, that I think could add some value to your world. If you've got any questions, if you're considering partnerships and you want some advice, I'd love to sit down with you. DM me, message And of course, if you've made it this far within this video, please be sure to like and comment, share this to anybody that you think would see value in it. And I look forward to sharing the next one with you.